There we go. Look how many books I got filled. We went from this to this. This one is a long one. Fuck reading that. Yeah, let's go back. So that's what the chapter is called. It's called Like a Dog. Alright. Next episode it is. Do one more. Then we can just wrap that one up. And when I say one more, like another 40 to 50 minutes worth. He was still in a deep sleep. It all seemed to blaze in a mad, fiery red. Unbearable, idle thoughts. Incessant obstinacy. Melancholy sights and gloomy, bittersweet talk. Fickle wickedness born of human interaction. Namely, the voice of a forsaken coexistence. This, however, was the scenery of a world far removed from that. If there were those praying this was paradise, then there were likely also those lamenting it as the underworld. In a decade, or perhaps longer, this would all change. But for now, the autumn leaves remain yet untrampled by human souls. Let me see here. Yeah, I'll talk about that one. I'll talk about that once I'm done with the recording. But here's another one that was also quote posted by GameStop. It's so. It was scenery he knew well. Life in the mountains was humble and modest. There were no conspicuous buildings among this wilderness he called home. They gathered and stockpiled only what they needed to survive without pillaging the land. Serpentine trails could be seen woven through the fields, and the stone steps leading to the summit were obscured by the forest, only visible once upon them. The mountain inhabitants probably intended it that way. There was no sign of mankind's exploitation among the mountain landscape. He suddenly remembered that this was the season he liked the most, or rather, it suited him the most. There was much to be done to prepare for winter, but whenever he had a free moment, he would make his way toward the mountaintop. Gazing idly at the setting sun while breathing deep the crisp autumn air was probably the second favorite of his daily joys. It relaxed him, the cold but comforting wind at dusk, and the way the sunset dyed the peaks a vibrant crimson. Not 2 months had passed since coming down from the mountains. Already it pained him that the memories had begun to fade. Someone once told him that memories fade every day, so the best you can do is make as many new ones as possible. Well, fuck you, dialogue. Recollections grew hazy. A new place to live meant the beginning of a new life. He wasn't sure if he was reluctant to let go of the scenery he'd cherished for so long, or if he'd merely been spoiled by it. Despite his new home in a city surrounded by tall buildings, he felt guilty for wanting those memories alone to remain clear in his mind. Either way, he had to make the best of a fresh start. What kind of man thinks more about where he came from than where he's going, he contemplated. The man is dreaming. He tried to stop himself from indulging in uncharacteristic sentimentality. It wouldn't be a dream if it was easy to understand. The moment he realized he was dreaming, angular shadows began to rise from the autumn colors. Why is it really giving out this horror aspect right here. What is this? This looks a little too eerie. There were concrete buildings, previously unknown and yet familiar to him at the same time. When will I be done with the mahoyo? You're watching the Uma stream right now, so muting at 1% volume. Yeah, I'm going to be done in 45 minutes. I say 40 to 50 minutes. But I say 40 minutes is a proper estimation. This was how his current life was washing away his memories. Struggle as he might, there was no stopping the degradation of human memory or impressions. It was merely a fact of life. By nature, humans lived in the present over the past. Eventually, even his most cherished memories would be swallowed up to buildings. It was neither cruel nor heartless. If they were sure to disappear, then for now he would content himself with dreaming about the memories he could clearly recall. Whether in the mountains or the city, the days flew by. Yesterday's scenery was not the same as today's. And such, what is this? And had given him no time to grieve. Distant nostalgia was beautiful, but that made it fleeting. Can't talk my way past you. A faint dizziness made him close his eyes. Without sight, the mountainous landscape vanished, but in its place, a familiar voice could be heard. It was a booming voice that seemed to shake not only the mountainside he stood upon, but the entire mountain as well. What is she on the mountaintop? What the hell? And of course, Aoko Ozaki reappeared, towering in the distance. He must have been tired, he thought, diagnosing himself while trying to make out what she was saying. Fearing the vertigo would return if he would open his eyes, he decided to keep them closed. It sounded like she was arguing with someone, though the tone was all he could make out. It wasn't violent, but certainly aggressive. Maybe she was picking a fight with another mountain across the way. That's pretty schizo, but alright, but he wouldn't put it past her. After all, she was a troublemaker who blew up the moon. He couldn't quite grasp the conversation. Though somehow, vaguely, he had the sense that his human rights are largely ignored. It was deeply unsettling, even for a dream. After several minutes, it seemed that the high-impact argument ended in Aoko's victory. Then suddenly, the boisterous voice faded. Praying everything would be back to normal, he opened his eyes. Well, he definitely got his ass knocked out, that's for sure. He took a deep, slow breath. The scenery was a far cry from the nostalgic dreamscape he had just left, albeit not unpleasant either. Without a doubt, it was the amusement park. To him, his was his freshest memory. He recalled the house of mirrors that Aoko Ozaki destroyed. This park was a flawless replica of reality, but he was the only one there. Without having to worry about anyone chasing him, he sat down on the wreckage of Kitsy's rise and looked up at the moon that should have been shot down. The winter moon shone white like a jewel. It was layered over the figure of the girl who tried to kill him. The figure of the girl tried to kill him. If a mage was a witch, then she definitely fit the bill. I don't mind being killed. Such an absurd thing to say, but it spilled out of him so naturally. Excuse me. That had nothing to do with witches or magecraft. There was an echo in the gaps of his heart. If she had not spoken those words, then he would not have responded as he did. In that moment, what had Aoko Ozaki said to him? As he tried to remember, his deep slumber drew to an end, and with it, his chance to find the answers he so wished he could find. Damn, there goes the opportunity of dreaming, right? 10 minutes in. What a What a dream. Then, Soujuro woke up in an unfamiliar room, gasping. Not because the plush mattress he was on was softer than his apartment's cheap futon, or because everything from the carpet to the wallpaper looked expensive. Wait, hang on. Are you telling me that either Alice or Aoko escorted him to the mansion? Bewildered, he tried to catch his breath. She was the one that she was the cause of his surprise. The moment Sojuro's eyes snapped open, there she was, the girl dressed in black, sitting at his bedside. The silence was deafening. Still supine on the bed, Soujuro gazed at her. His impulse was to sit up, but he refrained, thinking it might be rude to be staring at the person sitting next to him. She was just sitting there on a chair, dressed in black, modest clothes. Still, she projected an air that was anything but plain. Her monochrome outfit evoked indescribable elegance, like a costume handmade just for her from the finest fabrics. It was enough to inspire poetic sentiments even in Soujuro. The girl continued to sit, completely motionless. Gee, and here I thought, I guess Alice really did change her mind. I bet she saw Soujuro being a hero. She was like, oh shit. Without realizing it, Soujuro had stopped breathing. Genuine astonishment had him captivated. Such beauty. It was the first time he had ever thought to use such a simple, plain expression to describe another human being. She was the daffodil in perfect bloom, or the ideal female form seen only in dreams. This quality was something to be cherished and admired in her. It was different from Aoko Ozaki's blindingly radiant vitality. After all, the flame that burns twice as bright burns half as long, and there was no way this girl would be allowed such a happy ending. Her life was a solitary fable of someone who left the world in exactly the same way they entered it. With her humanity stolen at birth, hers was an existence not of this world. The more beautiful something was, the more tragic its fate. Growing up in the mountains, this was not something Soujuro was taught, but something he learned from experience. Soujuro turned his head as though he was being lured in. He knew it was rude to stare, but he couldn't fight his instincts. I know. Then. Oh shit. She woke up. Uh-oh. This time his heart actually skipped a beat. She was not asleep at all. She was pretending to sleep all along. Expressionless, she was merely watching over him while he recovered. Soujuro froze, unable to turn his head away or think of something clever to say. It was like staring into her eyes turned them into stone. Perhaps because of her delicate features, she looked somewhat younger than him. On the other hand, her tranquil expression made him feel like she was older. Jet black hair, just to her shoulders. Her large eyes were set like onyx stones, matching her hair. Devoid of emotion, her gaze stayed fixed on Soujuro. Even after their eyes met, she did not turn away. He wanted to speak, but could not find the words. It was not unlike a frog being stared down by a snake. Nevertheless, he just could not bring himself to say something. Additionally, no matter how carefree Soujuro might have been, he was painfully aware that this girl was as powerful as Aoko. Less talkative, to be sure, but still powerful. Objectively, the scene was not unlike that of someone nursing a bedridden stranger. Yeah, that's strange. The real Alice normally doesn't make Soujuro bedridden. I mean, Aokon did knock his ass out, so of course he has to be transferred to, I believe, the Aozaki mansion. He had no idea what she may have been thinking about, but it seemed to him this harsh silence might last forever. All he could say for sure was that the quiet did not appear to bother her in the slightest. It was like some bizarre form of punishment.
これが青崎の仕込みなら手が込みすぎる。
He thought, keeping his eyes on the girl. He felt like the moment he turned his head or blinked, she might stab him in the chest with a hidden blade. I mean, he's not wrong. Like, I think there's a reason why to be skeptical with her. I mean, this is Soujuro after all. Like, he was... And not because his imagination was running away with him. In the stifling silence, it was only natural that Soujuro would think back on what had happened in the amusement park, and it made him uneasy. But stronger than any anxiety was his fascination with the girl. Her slender frame and milky white skin. Oh my fucking god. The chill of her guarded stare. The warmth of her lingering femininity. I mean a word. It was the mixture of those two latter qualities that was almost magical. Question mark. He stared at her for so long, he began to get the feeling that they had met somewhere before. Sometime before the conflict at Kitsi Land. He could not quite put his finger on it, but he was sure he had seen her previously.
その今更だけど
His voice shattered the frozen silence in the room. He almost felt sorry for making noise as he spoke out to her, but they could not very well just sit and stare at each other forever. Yeah, it's not going to go nowhere. Might as well make some bit of progress, am I right? So he might have been the only one thinking they were staring, quote unquote, and perhaps she thought they were glaring, quote unquote, at each other.
ここはどこで君は誰だかわかるかな
She narrowed her eyes slightly, though apparently not out of offense. There was no response. Just as he was thinking it would have been better to keep quiet, she quietly raised her hand.
これ、あなたのでしょ?
Her voice was cold, but melodic. A white piece of cloth was wrapped in her fingers. There was no need to tell him what it was. He was conscious enough to recognize his own possessions. Soujuro sat speechless as she tossed it to him. Picking it up, he wrapped it around his neck. Oh, the bandage, right? Around his neck.
青子はそれを知っているの?
He looked away in response to her blunt question, distracted by something unrelated. She called Aoko Ozaki by her given name, which led him to believe that the mountain Aoko had argued with in his dream was actually the girl beside him.
さあ、どうだろう
As sincerely as he could, he answered without presumption. There are things that should be known and things that need not be. There are also things that should be told and other things that must not be. Soujuro was not exactly sure what that, quote-unquote, she was referring to, however.
でも、その方がいいとは思うよ
He smiled slightly at her question. Perhaps impressed by his response, the overwhelming pleasure in the room dissipated noticeably. Or maybe she had been more nervous than he was the entire time, projecting the image that his room was her domain a tad too strongly. The tension faded. Soujuro tried to sit up and prop his arms beneath him. Now that they were talking, it seemed awkward to stay lying down. However, his body felt strange as he tried to move, and it surprised him how difficult it was to sit up. It took everything he had just to raise his upper body to a sitting position.
洋服のまんまだ。
He's still in the same ass clothes. The same ass clothes, bro. Jesus. As he drew the covers back, he tilted his head quizzically.
申し訳ない。こんないい布団なのに、これじゃ不釣り合いだ。というよりもったいない。
She stared at him, not expecting him to complain about not wearing pajamas while sleeping. I mean, how long has his ass been knocked out? Like, like, he already got his ass knocked out. It's not like he can, like, put him in the pajamas while he's asleep. Somehow, it appeared that he had done something to surprise her.
なんでだ。何もしてないぞ、俺。
Pouting a bit at the unwarranted curiosity, he turned to face her. Although he was still mostly laying down, it was at least a more dignified position.
それで、さっきの続きだけど。
Why don't you know what would be funny? What if Alco actually ditched him when he was knocked out, and then Alice like saw his ass knocked out and decides to pick him up and put him in the Aozaki mansion? That actually did kind of make whatever. I guess what DK is saying, like, stop cooking. I'm so bad. I'm so terrible. Indeed. He needed to find out where he was and who she was before anything else. Actually, the more he thought about what happened at the amusement park, the more he got a sinking feeling in his stomach. Perhaps finally getting through to her, she calmly moved her arm from behind her back when... Am I hearing Aoko? Is that why? Once again, they silently locked eyes. Thump, thump, thump. There was a startling sound of rapidly approaching footsteps. They both had a pretty good idea of who it was. Oh.
Alice, 約束!
Oh, shit. Look, an Aoko popped out of nowhere. Just as expected. Aoko Zaki burst through the door with a thunderous roar. Oh, let me guess. She's decided to pop in because she thought Alice was about to, like, shank him. Shank Soujuro, is that why? She entered wearing her school uniform, her long hair flowing behind her. Her breathing was heavy and her forehead was wrinkled by a scowl, granting her a demonic appearance.
Alice!
This girl named Alice scowled slightly in response. She may have even let a sigh of disappointment slip out.
早かったわね、青子。
Her calm voice was the polar opposite of Aoko's. Needless to say, her voice dripped with a brazen coldness.
そりゃあんたの性格は知り抜いてるからね。こういう時の短絡思考はこの2年で経験済みよ。お行儀がいいようで面倒になったらあっさり投げ捨てるのがあんたでしょ。
Soon as things don't go your way, mask off.
いやね、人聞きの悪い。
Effortlessly, she brushed aside Aoko's jab. In doing so, Soujuro had the distant impression that she no longer even realized he was in the room.
はっ、それで今日まで何度煮え湯を飲まされたことか。青子に譲ると言ったけど、よく考えると面倒だから私の方で処理しておいたわ。なんて言い訳、もう聞き飽きたっつーの。
Well,
短期なのはそっちの自由だけど、それなら後の始末は相方に任せるのが最低限の筋ってもんじゃないの？そうね。そうでなければ共闘している意味がないわ。まあ、今後の方針を勝手に決めた人のセリフじゃないとは思うけど。それもきっちり型をつけたでしょ？ いい？勝ったのは私たちよ。逃げ切れば見逃してあげるって言ったのは誰？言動には責任を持ちなさい、アリス。それとも何？もしかして一番気に食わないのはそのあたりの理由なわけ？
Sleeping dogs. Alice frowned slightly and fell silent. Yeah, look at her face. She's like, damn. You sure got me there. Her housemate seemed to have struck a nerve that Alice herself did not know was there.
とにかくこいつの扱いはちゃんと目が覚めて本人の意思でどうするか決めるまで保留ってことで合意したでしょ？
Wait, but he just woke up.
人の留守中に出し抜くのはやめてよね。
それ、青子、学校はどうしたの？まだ正午になったばかりなのに。
What, the school ended early because Soujuro is absent? Is that why?
アリスのとこが今日で終わりって思い出して家庭の事情ってことで早退したのよ。期末試験前だってのにほんと何やってんだか。
Wow. Aoko grumbled more to herself than anyone else in the room. So you decided to leave school early all because you thought Alice was about to shank Soujuro. Well, that's what I assumed, so that's why she wasn't like, she just popped out of nowhere. Then she locked eyes with Alice. Or more accurately, they glared daggers at each other. The room had become tense once again, and it felt like a fight could break out any moment. With no way to escape, Soujuro had no choice but to sit and watch. But then, the electric silence that seemed like it would last forever suddenly broke about a minute later. Apparently, this sort of clash was an everyday occurrence.
私は今に行っているから。彼に事情を説明してあげて。
Alice stood up from the chair and made for the door. Watching her go, Soujuro cocked his head. In her hand was what could only be described as...
果物ナイフ。
Okay, I knew it. She looks like she was about to shank him with a... He had no other words to describe the tool she was clutching.
アリス、あえて聞くけど、その手に持ってるの何？
Uh-oh. Aoko asked Alice as she walked past.
探検ね。どう見ても。
Alice answered expressionlessly before briskly walking out of the room.
おお。
See? Well, you can... That look on your face right there, like, I hope you can realize that Alice is about to fucking kill you. Soujuro thought it best not to think too deeply about the scene he had just witnessed. Yeah, okay, you know what? Whatever. Is this even comedic anymore? Like, I don't think he's even funny though. Like Alice was about it. Like you just admitted that you have a knife in your. You just admitted that you have a knife in your hand, so that means it's hinting that you're about to kill off Soujuro. So, oh, whatever. That's not funny. At any rate, the girl in black had withdrawn, and along with her, the feeling of tension, leaving a bedridden Soujuro alone with an Aoko still dressed for school. From Soujuro's perspective, this was a perfect chance to get answers to his ever-growing list of questions.
わけのわからないことだらけだ、青崎。
でしょうね。順序立てて説明してあげるから、ちょっと黙ってて。
Maybe you can explain to me how Soujuro is able to be in the bed on the bed in your mansion.
顔の麻痺も取れてるし、呼吸も再開っと。これならもう安心かな。
She nodded, satisfied, as she took a seat.
どう？調子は。
なんかだるい。
He answered meekly, dropping his shoulders. He opened and closed his left hand a few times, but moving his fingers felt slow and awkward. It was clear he was still in bad shape. Meanwhile, Aoko was blinking her eyes in wonder. Or was it admiration? Between Alice and Aoko, Soujuro did not know which of the girls was the harder to read.
体が重いのは当然よ。
Well, I mean, to be fair, you did knock his ass out, so...
丸2日経ってるし、寝てるだけでも体は弱ってるだろうし。でも、もう話せるくらい回復してるとは思わなかった。あんたって見かけより頑丈にできてるのね。
He was bedridden for 2 days straight? What, did the punch in the face put him in the 2-day coma? There's no fucking way, though. Like, I guess Soujuro playing the hero really sure put him to a 2-day exhaustion.
2日って
That's what I was like, holy goddamn.
あれからそれだけ経ってるの。学校には欠席届出しといたから、その点は安心して。
Well, aren't you a nice person?
ガンドの呪いもダンプティの呪いも、私とアリスとで解除しといたから。
Soujuro nodded at the word curse, quote unquote, as if recalling it suddenly. It was all coming back to him now.
どうかした？そんな遠い目しちゃって。
I don't know.
ああ、忘れてた。それで2日も寝込んでたのか。怖いもんだな、呪われるってことは。
ほんと緊張感ないわね、あんた。ローのように眠ってたのが嘘みたいよ。下手すると一生あのまま石膏もどきだったかもしれないのに。
What?
ちょっと待った。今すごいこと言わなかったか？
Yes?
言ったけど、引かぬが花よ。
I mean, better...
ま、
Depend...
経緯はどうあれ、後でアリスにお礼を言っときなさい。私じゃ解除できなかったんだから。
Why would I want to thank Alice when she had a knife in her hand? Like, if your ass didn't shut up, his ass would have been whatever.
ひどい花もあったもんだ。
Bliss is overrated. Ignorance is bliss. It depends on the situation.
けど、アリスっていうのはさっきの子か？遊園地で、俺たちを殺そうとした？
Is that even a question? Algo replied that it was. God damn it, just asking the obvious.
彼女、ずっとそこに座ってたけど、ここは彼女の部屋なのか？
Soujuro scanned the room again. He was not accustomed to sleeping on anything other than a futon, and the room looked especially foreign to him. Excuse me.
ここはただの客室。長いこと使ってなかったから埃だらけでしょ。
The guest room. I mean, I don't know what's better, being accustomed to a futon or being in a Western style guest room.
それより、アリスと何か話したの？あなた。
いや、あれを会話というのはちょっと。
He brought his hand to his mouth and recalled a few words they exchanged. As Soujuro said, calling it a conversation would be a gross overstatement. And yet, thinking back on it, it seemed like they had talked for hours, which brought an uncomfortable smile to his face.
とはいえ、緊張は解けたと思うよ。青崎がやってくるのがもう少し遅かったらよかったのに。
Why would you... Aoko narrowed her eyes at his innocent slip of the tongue. She knew Soujuro did not mean to treat her like a nuisance, but nevertheless, she found it hard to take the full brunt of the words said to her face. Even worse, she sensed she was getting used to his manner of speaking.
でもだからなのかもね。相変わらず首の皮一枚の人生を送ってるわ、あなたって。
He tilted his head, clearly confused.
だからあんたはよっぽどアリス好みの対応をしたのよ。まだ生きてるってそういうこと。
I don't know what he did, but okay. Question mark. No matter how hard he tried, he could not grasp what she was getting at. He decided to change the subject to something else.
ところで、ここはどこなんだ？あの子に聞いても教えてくれなかったけど、青崎なら教えてくれるだろう。
ここは三崎町の幽霊屋敷よ。正確にはクオンジ邸と言えばいいかしらね。
Infamous haunted house.
さっきの子、クオンジアリスの持ち家で私が住んでるところでもある。あの後あなたをここまで持ってきたんだけど、覚えてないでしょ？
Oh, it was you that brought him home and not Alice. I mean, okay. It seems whatever. If it was Alice, then Alice would have like killed his ass off, but I guess Aoko is being charitable in most cases. Something about the way she said that made him feel uncomfortable. Oh, right. I remember he was asking what it was in the distance. This whole shit with what is that in the distance of the that hill? Oh, there's a get rid of this thing right here. There we go.
クオンジっていう名前は聞き覚えがあるような。そうだ、よく商店街でおじさんたちが話してた。なんでも偉いお金持ちだとかなんとか。
A rich family or something.
それ、アリスの前ではご法度よ。穏便にここで暮らしたいならね。
Don't you dare say that in front of Alice.
お
I guess it's forbidden to say stuff like that, I guess. Confused yet again, Soujuro tilted his head for what seemed like the 100th time that day. And once again, he had heard something to make him feel uneasy.
青崎、君今なんて言った？
しずきくん、私ね、あからさまな嘘を言う人と同じことを何度も言わせる人と察しの悪い人には容赦しないから。
Oh. So, about the whole haunted house, even though it's supposed to be the Mizaki, the Kuonji mansion, the whole haunted house propaganda bullshit and calling Kuonji the rich family. Okay.
そのあたり覚えておいてね。ここで平穏に暮らしたいなら。
But it's not his fault. I mean, it's not like, I guess that's what happens when Soujuro hear other people talking about it, apparently, like right here, this one. With her best smile, Aoko made her threatening proclamation. Needless to say, it caught Soujuro completely off guard.
気のせいならいいんだけど、君の言葉には俺がここに住むような響きが感じられる。
He shot her an honest stare of disapproval. It was the best resistance he could muster, but it was not in the slightest defective against Aoko's overpowering, ruthless glare. You know what? If he's going to live at the mansion, the Kuonji estate, at least he doesn't have to pay. At least he doesn't have to pay rent to the apartment. Actually, no. Well, how is he gonna pay when he's gonna stay in that freaking big ass house? I'm sure he's gonna be the errand boy or something.
あなた、自分の立場を分かってる？
Yeah, sure.
と。
He considered her words carefully, He wanted to openly express his feelings on the matter, but instead, he swallowed his words and shook his head. Despite his typical inability to read people's emotions, he at least seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. It appeared that he had finally realized that it was his carefree mood that typically got on Aoko's nerves. What's wrong with being carefree?
ああ、そうだった。あんたに回りくどいこと言っても無駄だったのよね。
Wow.
いいわ。考える時間ぐらいあげたかったけど、時間もないし、はっきりと言ってあげる。いい？しずきくん。
Okay.
この度、あなたは私たちの監視下に置かれることになりました。しばらくはここで一緒に暮らしてもらいます。
Oh, shit. Well, I mean, no one is allowed to trespass, but since, I guess, him being the hero, he is now able to live in a mansion. What the fuck? What a lucky bastard. Look at this motherfucker.
もちろん、生殺与奪の権利はこちらにあるという条件で。
Oh shit. Okay, well, I guess I'll take that back then.
No.
Look on his face. The blatant tyranny in her voice caused him to sputter. He wished that she would stop smiling in an attempt to make it seem any less outrageous.
一緒に住むって青崎とか？
He's like, what? But what about the rent? What if it was not the faint expectation of living under the same roof with Aoko that had him flustered? Rather, he was genuinely concerned about his own safety. Yeah, like, especially with Alice with a knife and Aoko. Well, I mean, what the fuck did he say? Hold on. No, not this one. Where is it? I guess when he said the whole hey, I know. I guess it was the what he said. Damn, it's almost like we have to be careful with what we say. We have to think. Regardless of how good-natured he was, it seemed he finally had come to grips with the fact that he just escaped death.
とんでもない。冬眠前の熊と一緒に暖を取るようなもんだ。
Seeking warmth next to a bear. You mean two bears? Aoko agreed, as blunt a comparison as it was.
たまには的確な比喩をするじゃない。
It's like, I mean, the one with the whole seeking warmth next to a bear. I mean, if you're referring to Aoko, two bears. I mean, you have Alice in there, you know?
あなたの言う通り、下手なことをしたり決まりを破ったりしたら、今度こそ息の根止めるからね。
Make a wrong move or break a rule and I'll end you for real. That's worse than paying for rent. I mean, I guess. As long as you follow, like, the rules, I guess. I don't know.
それと、ここに住んでるのは私とアリスの二人だけよ。
I really can't trust the smug on your face right here. Like, it's really off-putting.
あの子、私なんかより数倍常識ないから、気をつけないと死んじゃうぞ。
What? You're making it seem like you wanted Alice to shank him. What the fuck? What is this? What is this even dialogue even? Aoko was 100% serious. It was her sincerity that made it all the more believable.
Yeah.
But she's like, wait, hold on. Obviously, there was no way the victim, Soujuro, could accept these terms.
待ってくれ。俺にはちっとも青崎がわからない。 監視するって言うけど、なんでそんな話になってるんだ？考えられる範囲、悪いこととかしてないし、そもそも俺を見張っても得なことなんて一個もないし、青崎はいろいろ間違ってる。
Yeah, what did he do wrong? I mean, I guess he technically spied on you guys.
いや、それとも魔術師っていうのはみんな青崎みたいなのか。
Okay, maybe it's best for you to keep your mouth shut. Arrogant and selfish were the words that the harmless boy's gaze seemed to imply. Aoko felt a headache coming on. Due to his innate easygoing persona, Soujuro had not thought to question that Aoko being a mage was out of the ordinary.
だ
Oh shit.
からあんたがそういう風に誰はばかることなく私たちのことを言いふらさないかを見張ってんじゃない、この常識なし。
Damn. That's one way for her to lose her shit. We have to do that so you don't have to be a snitch. Aoko flew out of her chair. She had been doing her best to keep her cool, but it seemed her well of patience had finally run dry. Witnessing Aoko snap, Soujuro clapped his hands together.
そうか。青崎が俺を殺そうとしたのは魔術師であることを隠さなくちゃいけないからだったっけ？
Did that took you a while? they're gonna kill your ass if you snitch.
うん、それならわかる。監視するのは青崎の秘密のことで、俺の命云々はおまけみたいなものか。
Oh my fucking god. Why am I complaining about this?
そりゃ本質的に言えばそうだけど、身も蓋もないわね、その言い方。
Wow, what a face.
けど、それはあまり意味がないんじゃないか？学校もあるし、バイトだってあるんだ。一日中この家から出ないわけにはいかないんだぞ。
It does seem like house arrest if this keeps up. The logo in her face when she realizes it. In an instant, Sojuro's objectivity had her stumped, leaving her at a loss for words. He honestly had no idea what position he was in. To believe that he had any sort of freedom at this point was shocking, to say the least.
いや、落ち着け私。話が早くなってある意味助かるし。
I don't think breathing ain't gonna do shit. Aoko somehow managed to compose herself. As a matter of fact, she never had any intention of imprisoning him. Stripping him of his freedom and incarcerating him would go against their agreement anyway. Besides, if she was going to go that far, it would be easier to just kill him. Oh my god. Okay, are you going to put him on house arrest or are you going to, like, take him out? Or... Okay, whatever. Whatever. I'll stop. I can't stop yapping. I mean, what is with people... I feel like there's like a mixed reaction when it comes to yapping. Like, people don't like the stupid yapping and because it's completely like a nothing burger, and then and if there's lack of yapping in commentary, it's like, okay, they don't like the dead air. To Aoko, letting him live meant showing a modicum of respect to Sojuro's way of life.
もしかしてこの部屋から出ちゃいけないのか、俺。
A light bulb went on in his head as he blurted out what he was thinking. It appeared he had finally got the grim message. Aoko looked somewhat satisfied at his dismay.
大丈夫よ。監禁生活なんて面倒なことだけはしないから。
I mean, Soujuro is already registered to the Mizaki private high school, though, so...
あなたの自由はそれなりに考慮してあります。そのあたりのさじ加減はアリスの手腕に任せてあるから、あなたは心配しなくていいわ。
Like, if they're gonna realize that Sojuro's been absent for so long, then that's gonna raise the level of skepticism, you know? A gloomy look fell over Sojuro's face as he found his concern growing by the second.
いい。あなたの処遇はこの家に住むことを前提にした監視で、それも解決策が見つかるまでの期間限定。何でもいいから目撃者を殺すなんてことより、こっちの方がよっぽど穏便でしょ。
Okay.
だいたいこれは私とあなたとの約束なんだから、いちいち文句言わないでよね。ただでさえアリスとの冷戦が続いてて頭痛いんだから。
She sighed as she stared Sojuro down as he lay on the bed.
けど勘違いはしないで。ここじゃあんたの地位は最下層のさらに下、番犬より下なんだから。あんたの生殺与奪はあの夜から私が握ってるんだから。あんたは私に所有されてるようなもんなの。
The lowest of the low, even lower than the dogs. Oh, wow.
さ、これで自分の立場。
Interesting hierarchy. You might as well make him the mansion slave. Okay. As Aoko finished her declaration, Soujuro subtly looked up at the ceiling as she would not notice his reaction. He meant no offense to Aoko, but he had to hide the fact that he fundamentally disagreed with her analogy. In Soujuro's opinion, it was disrespectful to both dogs and humans to call him lower than a dog. What, you call him a bottom? Yeah, calling him the bottom of the barrel. A more accurate analogy of their power dynamic would be that of a rabbit and a wild boar, hence why he chose not to voice his opinion. Unlike his apartment, the ceiling here was decorated with ornate patterns. Putting aside how he would be treated here in terms of lodging, it was a definite upgrade. Maybe it would not be all that bad. Soujuro nodded slowly as if to persuade himself. And
とりあえず命は助けてあげるから。
well, that is what she had told him not 2 days ago.
あまり納得したくないけど、自分の立場は分かったよ。うん、確かにそんな約束だった。いろいろと言いたいことはあるけど、それは認めるしかない。だけど、君たちと一緒に住めっていうのは本気なのか？青崎は細かいことは気にしないとしても、さっきの子は嫌がりそうだし、俺だって少しは。
At that point, he zipped his lips. Aoko's eyes were tinged with bloodlust. Yeah, would you look at that? He just as soon as that happened, like
あら、しずきくんはご不満？
oh, please excuse me. I'm sorry to hear that you're dissatisfied with the arrangement. Uh-oh. Her contrived smile, so obviously forced, struck despair into Sojuro's heart. Come to think of it, he vaguely recalled her warning to him that to not make her repeat herself. Furthermore, as a practical matter, Soujuro Shizuki's life was now in the hands of Aoka Ozaki. It would be unwise to anger her further, he told himself as if speaking to a third person.
いや、別に。だってそれ以外ないんだろ。
This seems... I get the term personal authoritarianism seems like seems unfair, but I guess, I mean, at least, I mean, I don't know what's really better when it comes to lesser two evils here, living in an apartment with a futon or living inside a big ass house with the with the analogy of two bears. None, Aoko said with a firm nod of her head. No choices. Soujuro slumped his shoulders in surrender.
うん。青崎の言い分は分かった。ただ、一応聞いておきたいんだけど、俺の人権はどこに行ってしまったんだろ
う。バカね。そんな形のないものなんて初めからあるわけないでしょ。つまんないこと言わないでよ。
Stop wasting my time with stupid questions. Soujuro reflected upon her answer, now feeling like his question was indeed stupid. He should have already known the answer before he asked.
ああ、だと思った。そんな気はしてたんだ。目が覚める前から。
Okay, why the fuck do Type Moon fans even enjoy this? if they were hypothetically to live in their mansion? His muttering provoked a dubious stare from Aoko before she quickly retracted it. If she questioned every little thing he said, they would be there until sundown.
とにかく納得いったみたいね。じゃあ次、いよいよ本題。今に移動するわよ。説明しなくちゃいけないことが山ほどあるんだから。
Oh, thank goodness. Finally, we're moving to progress now.
で、一人で立てる？
さっきから手を動かしてたから血は巡ってる。歩くぐらいならいけそうだ。
Okay, cool. Maybe all that yapping is making it so he regained his energy.
そう、なら問題ないわね。
With that, she turned her back and walked away from him. He had seen this bold form of hers many times before. Hey, it's just like in the first chapter. Instantly, the memories flashed back to him like lightning.
そうだった。青崎はこういうやつだった。
Wow. It's nostalgic for him. Without knowing it, he cracked a smile. He was so lost that he did not know his left from his right, but recalling this alone was enough to calm him. The Aoko he knew was different from the one in the House of Mirrors. She was not that brooding girl he saw there. He felt a pang of nostalgia. The Aoko he knew was brisk in movement and unfaltering in gaze, just like this one. It looks like they all got giga foreheads. Well, it is pretty funny, come to think of it. She was the same as when he first met her, moody yet overflowing with confidence in her element.
ほら、急いだ急いだ。アリスがさっきから居間でお待ちかねよ。
And what if I don't wait? She was already outside the door, standing in the chilly corridor.
寝たきりの辛さを知らないだろう、青崎は。
Grunting and groaning, Soujuro eventually got to his feet. His body, heavy and stiff, while he was lying down, cried out in pain as he tried to stand and walk. Every step sent shooting pains through his bones. Despite this, he put on a calm face and made his way toward Aoko. Typically, he was quick to not pay any mind to life's little struggles, but these pains, he needed to force himself to consciously ignore them. In other words, he was displaying false bravado, an uncharacteristic reaction for someone who never suppressed their true feelings.
驚いた。あんた本当にタフね。
Is that really something to be impressed over?
ありがとう。けど心は弱いんだ。
そう。参考までに心に留めておくわ。できるだけ優しく扱えるようにね。
Naturally, her voice was devoid of any true empathy. She turned away from the once more dejected Soujuro and began walking briskly down the corridor. Just then she stopped, feet snapped together as though something had popped into her mind, and just as if she was remembering something she had forgotten in a completely trivial way.
それじゃあ行くわよ。ついてきて、宗十郎。
She gallantly turned back the way she was heading, the words sounding so natural as she spoke them.
Oh.
Why am I getting a weird feeling about this? Aoko did not see the look in Soujuro's eyes as he heard her words. For though she worked in the arcane, the spell Aoko had woven was apparent to everyone but her. After blinking his eyes as if blinded by something, Soujuro casually nodded and followed behind her. What's happening? Are you... Oh. Yeah, I think that's good enough. This is literally chapter... I feel like this is chapter 1 all over again. You're... Instead of touring around the school with him, you're gonna show him the tour around the house. Alright. I think that's good enough. Holy shit.